Okay, that's my cemetery report, so I can move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so in 2010, the village and the town came together and signed the DEC's Climate Smart Communities Pledge. And one of the first tasks that we needed to do was to come up with an inventory, a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. It's now 2014. We found a wonderful intern to do this for us. Erin Barclay, who is going to be a junior at Lehigh University. And you actually got credit for this, right? Yeah, through one of your courses. So I will leave it to you to give the presentation.
Hi everybody, like I said, I'm Erin Barkley. I'm a student at Lehigh, and I did this as an internship last fall. So, as she said, it's through the Climate Smart Communities Pledge. It's joined 73 other New York local governments.
You can get closer to the microphone.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I guess so. There's just like a couple graphs that I could show you guys.
Let's see.
There's just a couple graphs and data, but I can just send them separately if that works for you.
Hopefully. Keep talking.
So like she said, the first step was to create a baseline. So we were working with VHB. They developed a tool for these inventories. So you input all of the use of gas and electricity, diesel, and then it gives you all of the emissions that causes, so CO2, NH4, stuff like that. So the process that we went through, you can do scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. We decided to do scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is a little more complicated. So scope 1 covers stationary energy use, as well as purchased electricity, heating, cooling, steam, all of those things, and mobile emissions from vehicles. What scope 3 would cover would be employee commuting, emissions from government-related activities, and things that are contracted out, such as we don't have a landfill, so this would cover the emissions that are caused by trash that we ship out to other places. So even though the emissions aren't really occurring in Rhinebeck, they're kind of the sources from here. And the way that this calculates is in CO2 equivalency. Okay, great. Yeah. If you just go to there's the fifth one. So.
That's good.
All that stuff. Give me the next one. So that's the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Like I said, I just did 1 and 2, which is direct use and purchased use. And then scope 3 would be employee commuting and contracted out services. So the tool that we used was developed through VHB, which is a private company. You put in all of the data and it gives you the emission sources. So just one example would be like 1 megawatt per hour is equal to 0.226 metric tons of CO2 equivalency. And CO2 equivalency, it could be NH4 or CH4, but the global warming equivalent of that in CO2 measurements. Okay, next one. So this is the data that we got. As you can see, the highway department, both town and village, were higher up, and that all just depends on how much they're doing. It's just kind of the nature of different departments, kind of how much they're using. So the total came out to 920 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, and that's equal to the carbon sequestered by 754 acres of US forests in a year, or 100,000 gallons of gasoline consumed, just kind of to give you an idea of how much that is. It's kind of an abstract number, not really a lot of people don't know exactly what that means. You can go to the next one. So this just, again, shows the percentage by department, how much each is using. And again, it's just kind of the nature of each department, how much it's going to be. So then the last part is just results and future work. So the goal of the baseline is just to have something to compare future work to, kind of see where we are now, see what can be improved. The VHB, the company that we were working with, said this is pretty much average data for a town of this size. So that's good feedback. And for going forward, continuing the inventories will show how the town is changing, if we're improving, if we're becoming more energy efficient, hopefully not less energy efficient. Any growth, so if a new building is put in or something like that, you would want to make sure that's considered in the baseline. You maybe wouldn't want to include that building in the baseline, or at least be sure that you're still looking at the totals. If a whole new building is added, you can't expect to be reducing. Also going forward, might want to consider doing some Scope 3 research to see what the effect of employee commute is, how much the garbage that we're shipping out is contributing to emissions, even if it's not in the town. And then the other major thing is using these results to reduce emissions. So a lot of what the Climate Smart Communities is focusing on is energy efficiency. So any ways that you can use more advanced technologies that use less energy or fuels that burn cleaner, advanced systems for the mobile fleets, investing in better gas mileage or stuff like that. Everything contributes. A lot of this, when I was putting in the numbers, it's a lot of small things that just add up to the larger total. So even if something seems kind of small, it can add up, especially over time. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Yes.
Should we turn the lights on?
Do you guys have any questions?
When would we want to look at this, or what's the next step if we want to, try and reduce our footprint? Would we, if we get a new boiler, I'm thinking that that'll be something great, so we could periodically recheck it.
Yeah.
So you provided us with some good base data.
Yeah, and the tool that they developed, VHB, it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty user-friendly.
Great.
And I think we were one of the first ones to use this new, they updated it, so we're one of the first ones to use it. So there are a couple things that, that I talked to them about and stuff that they changed, so it's pretty user-friendly.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah.
Or?
How long did it take you to do this?
They had already compiled a lot of the data, so a lot of the reaching out to different departments, they had already done.
I did a lot of,
Yeah.
So combine that. How many hours?
Well, I'm just, really, the point of the question is if we did it again, how much work are we talking about?
To do it again, since you're
We can open a window too.
repeating the process, it would definitely be easier going around a second time.
Because this is already set up.
Yeah.
A lot of it's setting up people's plan on the, a lot of it's setting up the computer.
Yeah, a lot of it is inputting all these things into the program, and then you could just change the numbers. for
Okay,
each
we've
of
captured all that.
Yeah.
My impression is some of the data is pretty old, right? The 3-4 years.
We used the 2010-2011 data.
So, you're thinking that the PV isn't included? That your solar panels aren't included, Joe?
Yeah, are they?
Changes after that.
Pardon me?
We made a lot of changes after that.
Oh,
okay.
so the solar panels are not included in this audit. So we should be a lot less CO2y than what we even think.
These new, Kathy, these new trucks that we're buying for the highway department, are they more fuel efficient and less?
Different fuel reduction restraints that are put on them every year. Basically, every time you're buying a new model, the fuel So the older stuff is the stuff that's contributing, more problematic.
Low sulfur fuel.
Yeah.
They only idle for 3 minutes and they automatically shut off.
Suzanne, is this something we could update with the solar, with our PV info, or?
Yes, if we had someone do it, we would do it.
Right, my impression is that it's really been tough to get volunteers to work on this. This is a committee of one person, Suzanne
And Miranda Parry.
and Miranda. And
Two-woman
Miranda, are you going to
committee.
continue with this, or?
Actually, Ryan's going to speak to this.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, Aaron, thank you very much for your work on this. This
Thanks,
is
great job.
fantastic. We appreciate it.
Good luck with your career.
Yeah. I think we have next, unless there's any other questions or comments for the Energy Task Force, and thank you again, Miranda and Suzanne. I think we have Ryan Dowden from the CAB here to talk about internships and community choice aggregate briefly, which we are going to, I hope we're ready to vote on that today. Oh, and Jessica Scott, thanks for coming. That's the, yeah, you want the fan down? Yeah, it's fine. I think we blew out a lot of the...
Good evening, Board. Ryan Dowden, Conservation Advisory Board. It says on the agenda internship. We're going to sort of change that a slight bit because there's just been some very recent communication with the chair of the Town of Red Hook CAC. Originally, the Town of Red Hook CAC chairwoman, Lori Husted, reached out to the Town of Rhinebeck CAB and sort of communicated to us that they had just recently acquired an intern with Bard, and was wondering if we would like to sort of use his knowledge and research capabilities and skills. We discussed it at our last CAB meeting, and we were interested. I met with Lori, and through that discussion, it was kind of decided that the CAB should wait because there is a $1,000, we have to commit $1,000 to sort of have this intern skills and research and et cetera. So we're going to wait. There's also a timestamp on this intern. He's only available until August 1st. So we felt between the work that he was doing up in Red Hook and then to add on, it would just be a little bit overwhelming for him. And so we're going to sort of wait until the fall when we could possibly get a grad student who might be more capable, maybe more up to the task, and move forward. However, we would like to ask that we come back with a resolution to create a budget line item within our budget for interns and or consultants. I know we can work on the language of what that line item would be in our budget, but we don't have any lines in our budget that would be appropriate if we were to have an intern or a consultant help us out.
Budget time's coming up, so we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add that we have someone in Rhinebeck who's a professor at the Bard Center for Environmental Policy, and she has said, if you want interns, we have, between Lori and our Bard Rhinebeck people, it's something that's been offered and,
Right, and also
out there.
I can let Jess also explain. There are some other interns through another office within Bard that might be able to help. I can let her explain more about that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hi, guys. I'm Jess Scott from the Conservation Advisory Board. I'm also with Citizens for Local Power, so I'll follow up on the CCA discussion as well. So I also worked up until very recently for the Center for Environmental Policy and can liaise with that professor who lives here in town. We'd be happy to commit some graduate student time to this, and this seems like a project that's more appropriate for a graduate student anyhow. To follow up both on,
I'm sorry, what is the project? Is there a specific project that you're looking at, or you haven't put one
Sure.
together yet?
So as part of the Climate Smart Communities pledge that we signed, there are a couple of different, there are maybe 12 different measures of things that we could look at. And what Lori Husted is looking at in Red Hook with the CAC right now is mitigation efforts, which is just one of the many measures that we need to meet to be in compliance with this this pledge that we signed. So that's just one particular project. However, we're also interested in discussing the possibility for future solar development, solar gardens specifically, which there's funding for here on town-owned land. So this project could be defined in fitting with what's going on with climate-smart communities, and again, with the metrics that we need to meet moving forward. This is also the sort of thing that if we were interested in establishing, taking this baseline that was established and redoing it in repeated years, this is a project that could be ongoing with the Center for Environmental Policy. This is certainly something that students there would be interested in. So this would be a great way to foster some added relationships between both the Conservation Advisory Board, the town of Rhinebeck at the village, and our energy future a little bit. So we'll be interested in looking at that moving forward. In addition, I was speaking with Suzanne, and as an incredibly active person here in this town, she's not finding that there's a lot of time that's being committed to the Energy Task Force specifically. It's a committee of 2 right now. And so something that we'd be interested in talking about is rolling the responsibilities of that committee back in under the Conservation Advisory Board. I would take the lead on that, and based on my relationships with BARD and the Center for Environmental Policy, also my background working specifically with energy issues, it may make sense to roll that pledge back under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Advisory Board. And starting in the fall, probably around September, I would take control of kind of that aspect of what we're doing here in the town. So that's something that we're interested in, something that is supported based on our initial conversations, something that we would be interested in doing.
Fantastic.
Cool. So, Ryan, do you have anything else about that?
No, I was just, the next thing is the community choice aggregation.
That's on our agenda for tonight.
Support. We would just also like to add that there is a letter for organizations, and the CAB has already filled out that letter and signed it, and we will be sending it to the respected elected officials, Assemblyman Cahill, Senator Terry Gibson, pledging our support for the community choice
Thank you.
aggregation.
Thank you.
As the representative that's here for Citizens for Local Power, I can answer, or at least try to answer any further questions about that, which is a little bit further down on the agenda.
Are you, well, we can take it out of order, too.
Oh.
Are you guys, Ryan, are you done? Did you have anything else for us?
So do you need to do something official to, like, sort of dissolve the Energy Task Force and move this over to the CAB?
I don't think right now. I think you're talking about the fall, and we'll look into
Okay.
it. I guess, who's the liaison to that?
Joe?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why we necessarily have to wait. It sounds like you would like to give up
I'm ready. I am
that,
so ready.
And I think the CAC is
I stand
saying...
corrected.
Is
The
saying
enthusiasm
that,
over here.
that they are willing to take
Yes.
it over, so I don't know why we just don't
Have
do
we-
it.
Do we
And-
need to, we'll prepare a resolution for the next,
And Elizabeth, a note on that, the transfer of information and power would wait until the fall, so for the summer, further questions would still be directed towards Suzanne.
whatever works for you, Suzanne. Yeah, in this instance, yes. Joe, you'll look into how to transfer that, and we'll get a resolution or whatever we need for the next meeting?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a yes. All right, Ryan, thanks. If you're done with us, thank you, and thank you for supporting the community aggregate. I'm going to, let's move on to our resolutions unless liaison reports, if anybody has any. Colleen?
Mine all presented.
Okay, good for you. Clean sweep, you're good. Bruce?
I've been worn down.
You're Alan?
Nothing. Yeah.
Joe?
No.
I am briefly going to say, and I talked to Joe about this, when I first took office, I thought that the statutory board should answer directly to the town board, and finding that maybe we need to think about getting liaisons back to them, that answering to the town board means everyone's coming to me. So I leave that with you guys to think about, and maybe, I'd like to get some input from you, but I'm thinking we might need a little bit more communication with these, I think the highway, although Kathy's here all the time, you never minded having I don't want to speak for you, a liaison to help you.
Whichever way you want to go.
Thank you.
I'm going to reach out to all of you anyway.
Yeah, but I'm
Never
just,
stopped you
I guess
before.
I'm feeling that it's either not getting done or and I'm not being disparaging on these boards at all. I talk to Michael, chairs daily, but it would be good to have some help. There are a couple of little bumps. So I leave that with you and let's think about it and we'll move towards it. That's my only, there is one other thing. Our head of emergency services, Henry Campbell, reached out to me about the growing incidence of accidents on Slate Quarry Road. He's asked me to petition the county as the supervisor to call their attention to this. He's written an overview of it to me that I'm going to forward to Kathy. Kathy's going to add input. I'm going to get more data from the police departments and make a formal request to the county to look at, whether it's micro resurfacing, banking, or smoothing it out, because I think in the last month, the fire department was down there 2 or 3 times one day for several car accidents pretty much in Michael's front yard. So that's something I'm going to be working on.
Look, in that connection, I did get a inquiry from somebody on for Salisbury Turnpike who thought the speed limit is too high.
Is that a county road, Kathy? That's a county road.
So I don't know.
We have no jurisdiction over that as well.
Right. It's the same, though, issue.
The process is the county would want still, if the town is interested in having the county review a speed limit on its county.
Can you, I'm sorry to make you do this, but
I'm like a jumping bean up and down tonight. Sorry, the process for that would be if the town is concerned about a county road speed limit within the town, the county would prefer that the town do a resolution asking that the speed limit be reviewed or considered for reduction. The county has the ability to set their own speed limits, unlike towns, which do not have the ability to set our own speed limits. But they want an official correspondence, an official notice from the board.
do you have an opinion about that particular road?
On Salisbury?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it yet.
Thank you.
I think we could ask that it be reviewed. I think Slate Quarry, that's really, we know that there are problems
There have been fatalities, there's
Right,
accident
so
after
there I
accident.
think we should ask for
We're
a
going to
reduction,
really-
and we could do a letter.
Not even reduction, I think we're looking at banking and maybe even straightening out in some instances. We're looking for some road work.
Okay.
We don't know. I'm going to meet with Kathy and Henry to work on a draft letter, and
I just do want to point out that as the highway superintendent, I have communicated in the past several occasions with the county drawing their attention to the problems on Slate Quarry Road. We, a while back, had hosted a meeting with county representatives and local residents out there. Some signage improvements were made. When the new commissioner came on board, was about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I reached out to her in letter and also in person.
how'd that go?
I haven't had a response.
Okay, well, we'll get behind you and see if we can make some more noise. Specifically, the fire departments and emergency services have said, this is a problem, we need to do something about it. So if we have to go to the county, executive, we will.
So Elizabeth, in that thing you're drafting, you can put Salisbury Turnpike to be looked at.
No, that'll be a separate letter. This is for this one specific issue.
Okay, now who's going to do the letter for Salisbury
I
Turnpike?
don't know.
So should I do it?
Leave it with Kathy and I for a minute.
I think, though, the difference between, the difference, in my mind, between Salisbury and Slate Quarry at the moment is there's documented evidence of accident rates on,
know that there is
on County Road 19, as well as a history of correspondence and reaching out. I don't know where to tell you to start with this, Joe, because I have no other information on. I haven't heard any previous complaints about, CR 52 at all.
Right, but I thought one of the things we could ask them is to look at the speed limit. We're not advocating anything, we just want it to be looked at.
And I think they're probably going to come back at you and say, where are your accidents, on what is the basis of your request. So that's why I'm saying I think you might want to reach out to Traffic Safety Board or something first and do some research before you
Police
draft such a letter.
departments,
So you'll guide me.
Sure, give me a call. My door is always open to you.
Okay,
Aye.
moving along, I'm going to take this out of order. I'm going to go to our community choice aggregate first, which is coming back the second time. I hope everybody read it. And then Ray, thank you for staying. We'll go to the resolution number 6 after that. So resolution number 2, 2014-240, approving a letter in support of the New York State Legislator Bill A8883 and the Senate Bill 7087 on community choice aggregation. Do I have a motion
Motion.
and a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? For the public, last month, I think on the 12th, was it? When did we have our last meeting? Yeah, May 12th, we had the Citizens for, I'm sorry, thank you. Local Power, I'm having a brain freeze, come and ask us to sign on in support of this community choice aggregation, which is basically, as I understand it, it's a way for us to get more control over our energy choices for our community. It's being sponsored by Kevin Cahill in the Assembly and by Senator Gibson in the Senate.
Yeah.
So
my
we tabled this the last time because people had not read their mail, and I hope you've read it in the past month. And any questions, or Alan?
Yeah, my understanding is this is enabling. It doesn't require us to do anything. All it does is allows us to put together a co-op.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So we're signing on in support that this legislation go through. Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain, I don't understand it.
So moved. Thank you. So we'll send that out. Jessica Scott.
Thanks. We appreciate this as a member of Citizens for Local Power as well. We have been getting a lot of organizations to sign on, including the Conservation Advisory Board in town. I'm not sure when the appropriate time is. I just wanted to put the unified solar permit back on your guys' radar.
Right.
So just briefly, the unified solar permit is a NYSERDA application that allows, if your solar installation meets 4 distinct criteria, for it to go through a faster solar permitting process. This is just the NYSERDA permit. Those 4 criteria are that the array is under 12, under 12 kilowatts, no historical review is required, that no zoning variance is required, and that it's rooftop mounted. So if you happen to receive an application that met all 4 of those criteria, the unified solar permit would allow that permit to get approved by NYSERDA. And
Could you help me get this together for presentation at the next town board
definitely,
meeting?
we were going to talk about it at the Conservation Advisory
Great.
Board, do the legwork. Just as a point of note, there's money associated with it right now,
Right.
just $2,500 for accepting the permit, and that money is running out because a lot of communities have chosen to say, yeah, we're
Right.
down with this permit.
So if we could get it, we could possibly get $2,500 and streamline permitting for people who meet the criteria here in
Precisely,
Rhinebeck. That would
yeah.
be fantastic.
These are for private installations?
Yes.
Yes, these are for private
The
installations.
streamline permitting.
From the 6 to 8 week standard to a 1 to 2 week standard for things that meet
Great,
these
so we'll
1 to 2.
try and get that on for the next. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.
There's presentations for it up on the NYSERDA at Nanotech University. A couple of years ago, they did a whole bunch of these things. It's a huge problem, Michael.
Okay, so resolution number 2014-239, approving our preliminary account abstract payables, vouchers of 597 through 692, 67 checks totaling $83,728.61. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution number 3, 2014-241, establishing a petty cash fund, $120 for the concession stand petty cash. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Let's go to Ray's here, right, for the, I'm sorry, I'm losing, resolution number 6 of 214-244, setting contract negotiation terms for cell phone tower. This is tab 6. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
For the public, we have had, Joe, would you like to introduce this?
Yeah, we've had discussions with Homeland Towers, a cell phone constructor of towers, and they've presented us with certain economic terms that would go into a contract. The contract has not been drafted yet. It will be drafted, but we need to go ahead from the board as to whether these principal economic terms would be acceptable, but the board will have to look at an actual contract. But Homeland wants to know if these terms will be acceptable. I have reviewed the recent other contracts that Homeland has done. Ours are certainly within the ballpark. I've looked at the village contract. This one is better, but the village contract was done a number of years ago, so it may be due to town. I've spoken to John Lyons, and from his experience, he says we're in the ballpark.
Great.
So I think we should go ahead and approve it, and then we'll get a contract from Homeland, and their representative and I have had a good time negotiating so far.
Just for the public, this is an acceptance of terms and does in no way say that the project still has to go through a planning and zoning
Yes.
review. So I just want to make that clear. Whatever needs to be done, whatever type action it is, it will go through. But Homeland does not want to commit to a lengthy review process if we are not in agreement on contract terms. So just to be very clear about this. And we'd be agreeing to a 30-year term with monthly rent of the greater of $1,875 a month, or 25% of gross revenue in case there's subletting. Again, I don't know what the correct term of it is, leasing out. 3% annual escalation on the 1875 or the 25% gross.
No, I don't think on the 25%. I think the escalation is only on the 1875.
Okay, only on that. And then there are two.
I'm correct on that, right?
No, actually, it would go up on the gross rents because we write into our contracts that we receive a percentage that go up for each
So
year.
it's escalation on any whichever is the greatest
Right, but the
income for us.
25% doesn't escalate, or
Yes.
does it?
25% doesn't.
Oh, okay, so the amount will.
State and Homeland would escalate with the typical 3%
Oh,
escalation
okay.
as well.
Well, because we would get a rent based on the 25%, so there would be an escalation on that,
Right, I
whatever
thought
that figure is.
there was some confusion as to whether the 25% escalates. That does not escalate.
No, but the amount that it
After a while,
represents
we don't
would.
the company.
So also, we have
Go
two.
above 100%.
We have two option periods. One is the first 24 months, I guess, while you're going through the process, would be $1,500, and then the second option for 12 months would be $1,000, and you would pay towards our attorney fees for $1,000. Are
Would
there any?
the option start after the approval, or the option is during the approval process?
The option starts upon full execution of the lease. That's the option period. That's when the first initial option period starts. That's when permanent option.
So it's the signing of the lease.
Elizabeth?
One second, thank you. Nancy, did you have a question?
Yes. If
Could you
don't
just
mind,
introduce yourself for everybody?
I'm Nancy Kelly, I'm Rhinebeck Town historian, and I have been traveling around the country and noticing cell towers and having concerns about cell tower in Rhinebeck. Particularly, I think that having the cell tower on public land is a good thing for us to be striving for, but also that we don't want to have a proliferation of cell towers, so that if our contract is allowing more than one company to have a facility on the tower, that would be the ideal.
That's what I believe this is for, and our very excellent planning board already, is involved in this and would, I'm sure, they are working with visual people who do the visual impacts and who can guide us through this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm in trouble here because I've been going out of order all over the place, and thank you, Ray, for coming. Yeah. Resolution, item tab number 5 for our truck proposal. You guys have been thank you for coming, patient. Resolution 214-243, which is tab number 5. Highway Department truck replacement proposal. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? For the public, we have our highway superintendent here who will take us through this proposal for a truck replacement. Take it away, Kathy.
Thank you. I submitted to the board over a week ago a proposal to replace our truck R11. R11 is a 1990 Ford L8000. It's the oldest truck in our fleet. It's 24 years old, and it's about 10 years behind its anticipated replacement, according to our capital equipment plan. It's recently failed a DMV inspection on 3 counts, basically steering, front end, and the service brake system. We estimate that the repairs on that truck, just for those items, to bring it back into compliance, would be between $15,000 and $20,000. In addition to that, we're aware of a problem with the front steering axle, and we've been monitoring that condition closely. We've been talking about that for a couple of years, like waiting for impending doom with that piece to go. And that would be, we estimate that repair would probably exceed an additional $20,000. So we're looking at about $35,000 to $40,000 worth of repairs into a truck that has probably a value currently based on machinetrader.com and eBay and other research that we've been able to do. If it went out to bid, other comparable trucks in the same condition are going anywhere from $1,500 to $7,000. So we're talking about putting $40,000 worth of repairs into a truck that's worth, significantly less than that. I am recommending that we replace this truck as soon as possible. We know from last year that it can take about 6 months to get a truck. We don't want to be in the same position that we were in.
When did we order last year?
I think we ordered in July.
So we have a wing and a prayer of getting
and that was late. It did run late. That should not happen. But we want to make sure that we do get this truck in, because the strain of using other trucks to try and fill that gap, we saw again what happened last year with using older trucks not designed for that or no longer designed for that. They broke down constantly. We had increased overtime for equipment repairs. Our mechanic, Bob Roush, had to come in on weekends to fix those. So, every time you don't replace your equipment in a timely fashion, in accordance with a plan, you're going to incur equipment repair costs. I am recommending that we replace R11 with a dual reel axle, a 10-wheeler as we know it, with a combo body that's similar to the truck that we purchased, one of the 2 trucks that we purchased last year. The reason that I'm recommending that truck and that style truck is the larger hauling size, allows us to reduce trips when we're bringing materials back and forth. Snow and ice control, the larger capacity results in fewer reloads back at the department. The configuration is complementary with our paver, and we can carry more blacktop. It increases the efficiency for our road construction projects. And the towing capacity, again, we do have one now that would have the same towing capacity, but it never hurts to have that extra towing capacity on site. I do estimate that, by the way, we've researched the contracts that are available, and that's the reason that this isn't coming forward to you tonight within the actual contract, is we've identified 2 different contracts, and we're not yet sure which is the most, three contracts, thank you. We're not sure yet which is the most advantageous, but I need the authority to be able to go ahead to start speccing out trucks in order to be able to make that determination. So it's sort of what comes first, the chicken or the egg question. I need to be able to know we're going forward before I can spec out. I need to spec out before I can come back with the final proposal of, here's the contract we want to go off, and here's a final, or at least closer dollar amount. I am estimating that the cost of this truck is going to be in the ballpark around up to $225,000. So that is where we are on the 3rd page, and they are in your packets, but I also know that you got it a week ago. Page 3 is a funding proposal for the truck. It's a lot of money. We know that's a lot of money, but I do think that we have that money. We have in the 2014 equipment budget, we have $60,000. I would say that we should use the complete balance of that budget line. There is a rollover balance, a small rollover balance from CHIPS money, as well as the winter recovery money that was added into a CHIPS apportionment for this year. I checked twice with the CHIPS people to make sure that a truck would be eligible for that, and it would. So between the rollover balance and the 2014 increased allocation, I think we have an additional $90,000 that we can put toward this. There is some balance remaining in the Highway Capital Equipment Fund. I think it's about $24,000. I think we should use $20,000 of that. And then we would go into the fund balance for the rest, which would, based on $225,000 purchase price, would be in the area of $55,000. I do hope that that price comes down, therefore meaning the amount that we would go into fund balance for would come down. So basically 60, 90, 20, and 55 brings us to the 225. So again, I think I tried to show you that the funding is there to purchase this. We certainly need this truck. This is a one-for-one replacement. This is a truck we will use all year round. We will use this in construction as well. The truck that it's replacing is now currently got a sander on it all year. It does not have a dump body. The new truck that we would have would actually be able to use it not just for the snow plowing in the winter, which we desperately need, but also be a construction vehicle for us in the summer. Are there any questions that I can answer?
You have a ton of money in your, you have quite a bit of money in the fund balance, so even if we went over a little bit, we'd be fine.
I believe so. I believe that the fund balance, based on the closing year balance of 12/31/13, there was $356,000, but $80,000 was
Has been
appropriated
covered, yep.
for the 2014 budget, so that would leave $276. There are some other, it was pointed out, actually Bruce pointed out, that there were probably some expenses that haven't been allocated into that. I estimate that's probably going to be around 15,000 or so. But that would still leave us with a healthy, we'd have a balance in the part-town fund balance, probably still well over 15 or around 15% of our annual budget, which is,
We would still have
I think,
about $300,000 in there.
yeah, I think that's certainly within the comptroller's guidelines.
The statement that says using 55,000 of the part-town fund balance, is that highway part-town?
Yes.
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 Because up above it, it says,
It just says fund balance, yeah, but it's highway part-town.
so that's purely highway.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Still leaves us a nice, healthy fund balance in there.
Well, remember, we use a lot of the fund balance to, in the past, balance the budget, so...
Is it?
This is part-town highway.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, it's very important that we maintain a fund balance in there because it helps balance our budget.
We've got a pretty healthy, all of our 4 funds are pretty healthy. Well over, the controller, again, states a reasonable amount, and they say about 5 to 10, 5%. They won't give you a number, but they seem to skate around that. Any questions, any further questions, comments? Bruce, Elaine, Joe, Alan?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer.
So, I'm
They promised the R11 would last a number of years. They met that promise. I think it was a good move on our part not to get the truck 3 years ago. We got the life out of this truck. Won't pass inspections. They got to do something.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are you going to do with the old truck?
Yes, when we will, at the appropriate time, because we have to go through it first, and we'll see what other possible uses for pieces of it that we may have, or we'll see what the best thing to do. I'll come back with a proposal on that of either getting rid of it, putting it out to bid. We'll make that determination after we get through the ordering process with this
When are
one.
you going to have a contract? I'm just concerned about getting it ordered. I'm sure
You
you're
will-
more concerned than I am.
Now that
but-
you're on board,
I got one more contract to look
Okay.
right, and we're going to meet with we'll call it and we'll start actually
If
specking it
you'd
out.
like a special meeting, we have a couple of things we could do. Rather than wait 2 weeks, I'd be, we'll
That would be
all
great.
get one.
That would be very helpful,
just
actually.
don't- yeah.
We will move as fast as we possibly can
We'll
on
keep
this.
in contact on this.
Think so? Maybe we'll talk tomorrow? Yeah, well, I'll come back again with a proposal for that. And when I do come back with proposals for getting rid of equipment, I am going to also, as part of that proposal, that the money go back into the highway equipment fund to start building that again, because we always have equipment
We'll
needs.
just have more
So we're
trucks.
always trying to build that up, because we do have about $1.5 million worth of equipment down at the highway department. If we don't maintain it and multiple pieces start to go all at once, we end up where we're
At least, we have 2 more trucks that are probably aging out, I think, in the near,
They're aging out, but I'm not looking at moving on those very quickly. I think that we probably have a chipper is probably one of our next priorities, and one of the smaller, it's still a large dump, but it'd be the smallest of large dumps that we look at, but I think we have a year or 2 on that,
Great.
potentially.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Resolution, tab number 4, Resolution 2014-242, approving town hall usage application for the Girl Scouts. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
This is for the Girl Scouts, Troop 10279, to sell cookies out by the flagpole on the 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Against the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, am I, okay.
You're on tab 7?
I think I'm on tab 7, thank you.
3, tab 3?
Did I do tab 3? No, bear with me, you know how it gets
No, we
when I...
did tab 3.
We did tab 3, we're on tab 7.
The petty cash.
Resolution number 214-245, approving hiring for recreation summer camp and pool. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? For the public, our rec director is doing her best, working hard, and kids drop in, kids drop out. This is mostly an amendment, I understand, to pick up, replace people whose schedules are moving targets.
She's back there if you have questions.
I don't. Would you like to come up? Do you have anything for us, Chris?
No, but I would like to talk to you about the next one.
Sure, come on up, and we'll vote on this, and then we'll go to that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Resolution 214, 246, accepting a proposal for summertime recreation tennis instruction. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess the question is, how does this work? He uses...
Let's let Chris take us
Okay.
through, yeah.
He put in a whole proposal for incorporating it into the whole town. What I am looking into is just incorporating it into the summer camp. What would happen is he would come in early in the morning so it wouldn't interfere with their swim lessons. He would give them the tennis lessons, the camp counselors would bring them to the lessons, bring them back to the camp. I have one question with that. What percentage do you want from him?
97%? Kidding.
Percent, you mean...
Of his fees.
How much he's going to pay us for use of the courts? Is that...
Right.
I mean, here's my issue. I think this is great for summer camp. This proposal looks like we're entering into a contract, so I would want
Yeah,
to,
no.
that's too much. I think you're asking us to approve him giving lessons for summer camp only.
Right.
And,
And then if you are interested in doing what he
More,
wants,
we
then-
can
But the
negotiate.
only thing I want to know is it approved for the camp, and how much of a percentage will the town take?
I am confused here about what we're approving. If you could just give me a page number, because this resolution says that we're approving, and I think this is great. I think it'll be good for the camp, and you're in favor of it. The tennis lessons for camp.
Yes.
Because this is a multi-page
Yeah, it's.
proposal that goes all over the place. So what are we paying attention to, so for the clerk's records, we can be 1, 2, this is like 14 pages here. 1, 2, 3.
Well, Chris is looking for that. We tried this in the past. We did it on a contingency basis. Mark,
Why?
just, the coach was inconsistent in attending,
Well, there you go.
so.
But the kids would be signing up in weekly blocks for this, Chris?
Yes.
And you'll know pretty quickly if it's working or it's not working.
It would be the, sorry. The
Would you make
third page preschool tennis, and then 10 and under tennis. And it would, Monday through Fridays, 9 to 10, that's under the preschool. Cost $18 per hour for residents and $21 for non-residents. Full week session, 75, and resident, 90. 75 for resident, 90 for non-resident. And then it would be the same, the 10 and under tennis.
Chris, how many tennis courts do we have?
4.
Would this use up more than half the tennis courts? So I want to make sure the tennis courts are available for people who want to play tennis.
Well, if you wanted it just 2 courts to be used, I mean, that's something that we would work out.
What do you think, Bruce,
It's up to you.
in terms of other people using the courts?
Weekends, I could see it's heavily used. During the week,
There's nobody there.
it's not used very much. I don't really see it as an issue, and by the way, they consume the basketball court, they consume the volleyball
They
court.
consume everything.
Everything down there basically gets
It's all
consumed
wrecked.
when camp's running,
Is the camp?
Yeah.
yeah.
John, I'm sorry, you had a suggestion for severing this into a,
I was just thinking maybe instead of trying to parse this particular proposal, just amend the resolution, authorize Chris to go back and negotiate specifically for the camp, decide on a percentage, and then she can come back with a contract that's just focused on that.
is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is it
I would like-
acceptable time-wise?
Well, we probably need a special meeting.
Well,
Yeah.
but if we're okay with it,
are you okay with the pricing, and you would have to tell me what your final offer is for the percentage? That's what I really need to know.
Do you have a recommendation?
I really
50/50?
The problem is, we don't
I don't
really
know.
know how much money it's
10%.
going to generate, whether
Starter.
it's going to pay for
Or 20,
his
whatever.
time. So I think the percentage is really tough. He has to,
Well, I mean, if he gets 10 kids in this program, he's gonna get $180.
Who's doing the billing for this? He's doing the billing? Are you?
Yes.
And you'll audit it, or?
I'm going to see if we can set it up through my rec.
Okay.
Yeah, so we collect the money that
Right,
way.
and then,
Don't do that.
don't,
We don't want the legal
We don't want to,
responsibility with
Okay.
this. Don't do that.
should we charge him a flat fee, or do we want to do it?
I think a percentage is fairer.
We'll know how many kids have signed up because they're leaving the camp to go there.
Okay.
So
Let's,
we'll know.
20%, does 20% sound like in the ballpark, Bruce?
Fine.
And with we can cancel this, if it's not working out, finish out the week and we can cancel it.
okay. So 20%?
20% with the rates quoted here, preschool tennis and 10 and under tennis for the camp. He can use the 4 courts for that time, and if it doesn't go well, we can cancel.
Okay. Okay,
Sound good?
sounds good.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
And he'll come to us for the rest of this, or how are we leaving?
I'm going to tell, I'll tell him to.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chris.
thanks.
I'll talk to you later.
And my advice on the rest of this is we don't.
yeah, I really
I think
don't
it's too
like
much.
to see us tie up those tennis courts.
I agree. I guess we can tell him, I mean, let's poll the board here. The recommendation, he's looking to basically use the courts to run his tennis business for the rest of the time. I think an addendum as camp is great, but
Well,
Bruce, is
Here's the
recommending.
thing, if a resident signs up for the court, they could bring the instructor along, right? I mean, that's
What he's
people
asking
do.
for us is to allow him to use his, if you read this, tennis courts to do his tennis school. And
But a lot of it is one-on-one, isn't it?
Yeah, but we have to be careful that we're using public property
to allow
for a
someone
commercial
private.
concern. We're not, we haven't bid it out at anything. We haven't looked at any of the alternatives. We haven't asked for any
Haven't even
revenue.
met this guy.
And-
Well, that's why I said, why don't we have whoever wants the lesson, sign up for the court and bring him along?
Let's just
Stay out of it.
Bruce is saying we
That's what I'm
stay out of
saying.
it.
Okay.
We're going to, I think, is everybody agreeing to, we're going to approve this for camp and the rest is
Yeah.
beyond our scope, something we don't want to do? I'm sorry.
I think since Chris is basically going to come back with a contract for you to approve, you're probably better off just either voting this down straight, tabling it, because you're going to have something new to approve.
Yeah, we're not going to pass anything
Well, I
tonight.
think we're instructing her to let him know we're not interested in the rest of it, the summer camp portion, we are.
So you're just voting this down straight up, or tabling it. And then Chris will come back with a new contract based on the numbers in here for the camp only.
Yeah.
Percentage.
We've just agreed to the numbers for the camp and a percentage.
That was the direction, and what I'm concerned about is if we're waiting for her to come back with a
If she'll miss
contract
it.
and it drags out, then the campers aren't going to get tennis. That's what I'm worrying about.
We've agreed to all courts for camp only at the rates in this thing, on page 3, and we're asking for a 20% cut of it.
Yeah, I must say, the all court still bothers me. Maybe we can do 3 courts, but, if some residents want to play tennis, I
Well,
don't
it's,
know.
as Bruce said, it's camp city down there, so.
Yeah, but
But say 3.
Say 3, okay,
3 courts, that's it.
okay. And we're just doing camp,
Right.
okay.
Camp only at the rates in here, and you guys are authoring me to sign this as soon as it comes through at this. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that all right, John? Thank you. Do we have an open resolution?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so now we need to vote. We're voting on a resolution to allow me to sign a contract to have Mitch Adler Tennis provide tennis lessons for campers on 3 courts for camp weeks at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at $18 per hour for residents, $21 for non-residents, $75 for a full week session, or $90 for a non-resident. And then for the 10 and under, it would be from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. at the same rates for 6 to 10-year-olds.
So you're amending this resolution?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay, so we'll save this. And I can sign it, I'm authorized to sign it. Rec on the fly. Resolution number 9, 2014-247, approving Weston and Sampson contract amendment number 7. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
For the public, this is for the Thompson Mazzarella Park Phase 1. It's for out-of-scope work. Bruce, do you want to speak to this, or?
When the engineers at the time wrote the RFP for the park, they included 6 town meetings. We've had nearly 100 meetings, so this is all
A
out
lot
of...
more than 6.
Yes, yeah, so all they're doing, and they've given us a lot of these free, but they're asking for some kind of offset for the additional.
And a lot of these were all through the fall with the joint town and village meetings and all the committee meetings and planning meetings and SEQA and New York State, a lot of this for the soccer stuff. And
Right.
okay, and it's an additional $39,000. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of money, and maybe we could have fewer meetings. Maybe the planning and the village don't need separate meetings. Maybe they can combine, but I think we got to try to do something to
Okay.
keep the costs down.
Joe, going forward, I think you're absolutely right. This is a learning curve. All of these are for meetings that have already been had. Sally Mazzarella took a run at these people. Other people have taken a run at them. They're not going to budge on this.
Who was they?
Weston and Sampson. This was just... Well,
Yeah, everybody's aware we had very
Michael probably
contentious.
knows where they live now with the amount of times he's seen those engineers standing in front of him.
We had a series of very contentious meetings, and that's drove the cost up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thanks for doing this, Bruce, and you're right, it is a learning curve, but we're getting there.
Yeah, it's not the park project learning curve, it's the town following its
Managing
own rules.
Yes. Managing it's a big project.
But going forward, to the extent we could get the 2 planning boards and whatever permits are needed, if they can coordinate to joint meetings.
If you look at what these meetings were for, can I say it for the?
I understand what Joe's saying. I don't think people in their minds really were thinking about the money in these situations. Think people are saying, this is a process we have to go through. Some of it we're going through because of the issues, some of it, but
It's just
nobody
the
was thinking
process.
about the costs of it. And that's what we have to start doing. Now, this was the first time through. Have we ever had another town project that's jumped through all these hoops and followed all these rules?
No, and and in the scope of what we're doing, it's not a lot of money. Again, it's, providing an amazing park for the community.
I mean, Joe, those 2 highway guys were on the clock today, probably.
I hope not.
But I bet they were.
Well, we should find out.
Do you want to be the new liaison to the highway department?
I would be happy to. I've always been.
Okay, well,
I'll ask the question, I don't.
moving right along.
Elizabeth, maybe just to clarify,
hi,
the planning
Michael.
boards are done with Phase 1 of the park. We're just waiting, the town waiting for Department of Health approval. I think there's something from the state for the speedy, something like that. That's all we're waiting for, so we can stamp and sign the final plans.
And go out
I
for
assume
bid.
the village is in the same position that we're in. We're just waiting for county and state approvals to come through. As
So
far
this
as the
is-
town and the village are concerned, we've already approved the plans. There are no more meetings unless there are amendments that are brought before us. So at this point, we're just in a waiting mode for the state and the county to come across.
And the Warren just finished reviewing the front matter for the park, so we're almost ready to go out to bid. And then the pavilion's right after that.
There's some light here. Thank you, Michael. Tab number 10, okay, I'm chugging along here.
It's for Unicity.
I'm writing a note, I'm sorry. Resolution 2014-248, approving the software licensing contract with SMA and the intermunicipal agreement for our Municity software. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? This is for the public, authorizing me to sign the intermunicipal contract that Warren Raplansky has drawn up on behalf of Hyde Park, who's lead on this. It's for, I think, 11 municipalities. The county has approved it. It's boilerplate, and then you're authorizing me to sign the software leasing agreement with SCA. I think I said SMA.
And we get reimbursed by the,
Yes, through the grant. And, paying attention to this, there are costs that we're going to have to budget for yearly, just for. Any further discussion?
There are time limits also on things we have to do, by recollection.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. And I want to thank Paula Trimble for her continued work on this. She's helping to keep us on track with this, helping Alan with implementing this. We're getting there. Tab 11, Resolution 214-249, adjusting the escrow rate for planning and zoning attorney. May I have a motion? I'll motion it. May I have a second?
Second.
For the public, somehow, at the beginning of the year, I don't think we approved this. John Lyons is our attorney to the planning board. He's keeping the rate for the town at the same. He hasn't raised his rate for escrow work in 2-3 years, and has petitioned the planning board, planning board chair is here, you can speak for yourself, supports this. We would like to raise his rate, which is still under what most of our other attorneys are making, to $150 an hour for escrow accounts only. He's still discounting town work at a very generous rate, so thank you, John. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I think in implementing this, we've got to be very careful to notify people that there's been a change and this is only going forward, not for any past work done. So that...
Is that your understanding, Michael? It's from today forward, or are there, or is this correcting a mistake that we
I
made?
think the charge may already have been at this level.
I think
I'm sorry, what?
I think the charge for 150 may already have been at this level
I
for
think we
this year for
corrected the
escrow.
escrow and done
says
it.
for
I
the
think it
year
was,
2014.
Well, did we tell people? Because all the bills that I've seen are at the $125 rate.
If it's for escrow, it should have been at 150.
Well, but it was, as far as I know, it wasn't, and I don't see how you can go back and
I
tell
don't know that it would
people.
be going back. I think it would be whatever they have been billed for at this point, up to this point.
Right.
Michael's saying if they were billed at 150, it sets. If not, we're,
Right. But if there is a project,
I'll check with the escrow clerk.
let us check and get information, maybe talk to John
Okay.
about implementation and how he envisions it and what's
Any
fair.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I think this is our last resolution, and then we have just a couple of more items. Resolution number 214-250, hiring an attorney in connection with negotiating our fire protection district contract and ambulance services. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the one question I have is he has other charges and travel. I don't know what that means, travel. Hopefully he's not billing us for driving time from Syracuse, but I think we better find that out as to what travel means.
For the public, with our ongoing negotiations with the village on fire protection services, we've found, I think who's the state expert on fire departments, fire protection districts, and someone who's knowledgeable, who seems to be able to guide us and the village in coming to an agreement that works. He's well worth it. He's given us some great advice already.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
But
opposed?
with the, can I say with the reservation to get back to us as to what travel means?
We just, we voted on an open resolution here. I believe it's passed, but I will ask him, or you ask him, you talk to him.
No, you've really been handling it. I don't want to start switching
Okay.
liaisons to him.
I will ask him what travel means, but we have passed this resolution. We have a couple of, is there any new business or anybody there who would like to bring up any new business? We have several discussion items. Elaine, what's your name? Bruce? Joe, Ellen, any new business?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to our discussion items. I'll take them out of order since Nancy's here. I know we have Thompson Mazzarella Park artifacts. Nancy, would you like to speak to this too? We did an archaeological study of the Thompson Mazzarella Park, the Great Lawn, I think, before we started the plan, and there are some artifacts that we would like to get back in our possession.
Yes, the grant that or the work that we did required us to do archaeology work before we disturbed the land or made our plans. And I think we had a grant for doing the archaeology work. So we had a contract with a professor from Bard College, and the artifacts were all taken to Bard College. He wrote us a report, and the artifacts are currently at Bard College, we think. There's been some bad experiences with other situations like this, and one example recently was written up in the Observer, and I forwarded that article to some of you, and that is in the town of Hyde Park, where the Dutchess County Historical Society provided the grant to have the work done. The artifacts were sequestered at Bard, and now the Hyde Park and the County Historical Society would like to have access to them, and so far they've been denied access to them. In another example, which is right here in Rhinebeck, we had work done at the farmstead. It was the Equipment House, the Equipment Resource Center that is the owner of the property and the one who had made the arrangements with the state for work that needed to be done. We had a grant. We had the work done. The artifacts were at Bard. We requested a chance to visit them, to see where they're being stored, to see what the situation was. We were put off so that we never were able to look at them. And at some point, we found out that they had been given to another group and stored in Saugerties. So that these are things that belonged in Rhinebeck, and they belonged to the Equipment Resource Center, and there was no reason for them to be given away.
Nancy, I'm just going to, you're asking us to seek return of these artifacts.
I think it's very important that Rhinebeck's artifacts be returned.
Do you have someplace where they can live?
I believe that we have room at the Resource Recovery Center for the time being, and for storage that is a safe and secure storage area. Eventually, I'd like to see us have displays made of some of these, both here and the library.
I met with you previously about this, and I did meet with the professor in question.
Okay.
And I think he said that we would need a space about as big as one or two standing file cabinets that are sort of the cloth-lined drawers to store these in. And do we have money in the budget to buy those, or is there something that we can get? Something to think about as we look into it.
Yes,
So we need to take formal action as a board and request the return? Is that what you're asking us
Yes,
to
we
do?
need to take formal action and request the return, and have an opportunity to determine what size cabinets we need.
Do we want to see them before they're returned to us, or what are we, or just get them returned?
I think we get them returned at this point. I'm very worried about them.
Does anybody have any questions or input?
All I can say is we've looked at this before. It's something we should, they're our property, and they're not
Get
here.
it back.
And, whatever the special conditions are that we have to do, they were under the ground for 5,000 years.
Which is a preservation in and of itself, and once you remove them, they're encapsulated.
Oh, okay, but they're there, so there's
Yeah.
something we can do. They're not feathers. And this, to me, this is just going around in a million different circles. We need those back, and we need to do what it takes to get them back.
Do I need to write a letter to everyone at BARD, or does it come from the board? Does it come from our historian? How would you like to proceed?
I think it's important to come from either the board or the supervisor,
Or the town lawyer.
and it needs to be...
I think we could start with us first. I think it might be a little heavy-handed, and we'll send it to the department and the president and,
That would be-
I think we tried the lawyer before, and I don't think that carried any weight. I think going from the board might be,
How did they wind up with these in the first place?
just took them.
What?
They took them.
They were contracted.
They apparently wanted to write the report, and then they claimed that they needed to keep them. And so...
What kind of report did they write?
It's
Not
just-
very detailed,
But it's 660 pages thick.
yes.
Nancy, can you make sure we get a copy of the report so we can
We have it on
Have
file.
reference whatever we need?
We have it on
Yeah,
file.
it's in your safe, I believe.
Okay.
John should be able to find it for you.
All right, Alan, I'm throwing you under the bus on this. As the liaison to the historic, will you take a pass at the letter? And then we
Sure.
can, how well we do with group communications, so we could volley it around and
I'll write a letter.
hopefully.
Tell them you're the king of Denmark or whatever it is.
No, the prince, the crown prince.
Great, Nancy,
Be careful.
hopefully you could help us with this. We will work on a letter and get it out to the parties that be. We'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Nancy, if you could email me with people I should write to.
I can do that, Alan, and we can work on it
Okay, I'll
together.
talk to you then. All right, never mind, thank you.
Okay, a couple more tabs here.
Oh, boy.
14 and 15. We had I had a letter from a resident who has 2 grandchildren who are going to be living with her for a month this summer, and she wants to put them in summer camp at residency rates. I should have done this when Chris was here. We don't really have a policy.
Oh, we did, we discussed this when we set the rates and said no.
She has written, based on that, she has written to us and has asked to come, to bring this before the board. She wasn't able to come in person. Should I read the letter aloud?
No, I don't think it's necessary. We can read it.
Well, for the public, we have residents who are requesting residency rates for their grandchildren who really aren't residents, but will be under their guardianship for a period this summer. So I'm bringing it before you to ask what you want to do. Bruce, Rick?
As I told you when we discussed this, it's gone both ways through my years of experience, and it's whatever the current board wants to do.
Punt.
Yeah, that's what that is.
What we're saying is that, if you live in Rhinebeck and your grandkids live in Red Hook, and they're going to be staying with you,
Yeah.
maybe that you could pay the residency rate. These kids, are here for, I think, a month from far away.
Well, you're right. I think it makes a difference whether the kids normally live in Red Hook as opposed to California. California,
So do we want to stick with our policy, what we have, and say that because these kids are staying with these people for a month and they will have legal guardianship, they will be able to administer medical care, that we're offering residency rate or not?
I think it's fine.
I would.
Okay, now let's take my case. I have 2 grandchildren that are coming to stay with me for a week each. They live in Connecticut, and they're going to go to the camp. What do they get?
See?
I think that's a tougher one.
But I feel like we really spent a lot of time on this when we first, I don't know why we would go back on something we took a very long time to come to agreement to. I think we should just stick with what we said we would do. Otherwise, we're going to open up the floodgates for other possibilities or people doing the same thing and saying, well, you did it for,
Well,
do we
because
want to do that?
the only reason, I'll be very clear, because I'm only one of 5, and I can't tell someone who calls me and petitions for something, yes or no. I can say, I'll bring it to the board.
So we decided that we would not charge residency rates. It would be non-resident.
Yeah, we had
So
quite an
let's
extensive
stick with it.
conversation about this.
We
when-
decided we would, that they would pay non-residency
Okay,
rates.
let's stick with it.
That's my feeling.
And just so you know, what people do is they drive to Rhinebeck, find the relative that lives here, has the relative take the kid to the camp or swim lessons or whatever. So there are others who go around this. All we can do is the best decision that we can make as a board, and I think it sounds like we've got it right
It's just a question of
now.
enforcing our policy. If we set a policy, what's the point in having an hour-long discussion if we're going to change our minds based on one inquiry? I really think that we should just stick with what we agreed to.
I pulled out some definitions of domicile and residency.
I know it's not perfect. That was part why I think we took so long to hash it out, because we couldn't decide.
So really, we're saying that the kids have to be a permanent resident of Rhinebeck with their domicile here, and a domicile is the place that they intend to have as their permanent home. So if the grandparents are here, they get residency rate, but if the grandkids live in Red Hook, if they live in Oklahoma, that is their domicile. They are not residents, even if they're with grandma and grandpa for a month or 2 months.
That's what we agreed
I
to.
think it's termed parent or guardian.
Yeah, I think that's more appropriate, because, the father might live in Rhinebeck and have custody over the summer.
It's not what we're talking about, yeah. We're not talking about a custody, we're talking about kids who are coming to stay with grandparents for a month or the summer.
Grandparents.
So we're saying that they are not residents.
They're not.
Okay.
Their residence is where their parents live.
I mean, I understand, I feel bad for this situation, but they're making the argument about, I'm a taxpayer, my taxes should cover this, but you're entitled to the pool. You're entitled to use the pool at the residency rate.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what she's saying. We've been told that we will have to pay non-resident rates this summer. I do not believe that we should be required to pay non-resident rates for our grandchildren to attend summer program.
Right.
Our Rhinebeck home will be their legal residence for the summer, but a residency is your permanent
That's right.
domicile.
Right.
So they're really just visitors for the summer.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement? I'll make the call.
Yes, Solomon.
Fun.
Wasn't it Bathsheba?
I don't really want to go there now.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for your consideration, Board. One last, and then we've got a quick executive session, which I swear will be quick.
God.
It was all the presentations. We had a lot of presentations.
Well, that's what happens when you have one meeting. That's why I always
Well, I know.
urge that we have 2 meetings
Well,
a month.
We're not, so we'll have a couple of long meetings.
Right, but I
Moving
can finish my sentence.
right along.
It has the
business.
virtue of allowing Elaine to participate where she cannot participate in meetings that we have during the day, so maybe some stuff we
You want
can't.
even more meetings?
No, I understand. Well, when a special meeting's called, it is true. I mean, they get scheduled typically during the day when I'm at work. And I'm not just concerned for myself, but the issue troubles me too, because for working people, if we call a special meeting that, they can't attend, and people that work can't attend, if it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I think it is nice if we're going to have special meetings or the additional meetings, especially since we do have fewer meetings, if there are at least hours where I can, as a board member, attend and have some input.
Well, I think we've had, we're down to 22 meetings a week, but with special meetings and attorney-client, our attorneys really are most available to us in the day, especially our fire protection district is a total day guy. He's booked nights for
Right, but the last special meeting you had was other discussion that I would have wanted to be present for.
We throw it out and it's the board majority, so we can keep doing it. but
Right, well, that's why I'm
whenever the
glad
majority-
actually Joe brought it up, because I'd like the other board members to know that I would appreciate if during the special meetings, when possible, they're scheduled when I can, and not just for, like I said, for me to attend, but for the public to have an opportunity to attend, because people who work, they don't have that opportunity either, and they should.
Great. Any more discussion about special meetings? Should we table security projects, or do you guys have energy for this? Just quickly, when we went through the insurance special training for, I don't think you've done it yet, Elaine. Alan, have you been able to do it?
Yes, I did it.
And you have it on your
have a
schedule?
certificate.
too?
Well, they haven't given a date yet for the fall. He said he's going to do it in the fall down in Hyde Park.
Okay, great. This was violence in the workplace, and it was pretty, raised some good points. I met with him after this with somebody, I can't remember who, might have been Shelley. He had some input for us and wanted us to change several things. He will have a formal letter coming to us on things to change, but one of the things was access into town hall. It's strongly recommended by our workman's comp risk specialist that we limit public access to town hall. That door's propped open all day long. It is our handicapped accessibility. The side door's open. They would like for us to have one door open only with a buzzer on the back door for handicap accessibility. And they're also recommending that we think about putting cameras up so that we know who's coming in and out, and we save the storage for a little while. Bobby and I met with the local alarm system company, and they've given us a proposal for this to install intercom stations at the handicap door with a master station in the clerk's office, a mag lock on the handicap door with power supply, release buttons. So basically, it could be a computer, who's at the door, let's buzz them in for handicap. The other doors would have to remain locked with signs that say, please use the front door or the back door for handicap. And it's a almost $7,000, let's call it $7,000 job quoted at prevailing wage. And then a camera system is another $11,000. I guess taking your temperature, it's something that our insurance company would like to see us do. At least the first part. The second part, they're strongly recommending.
Just so you know, the second part, I've done that myself. I went over to Sam's Club or something.
Yeah, the Sam's Club sells
I bought
this.
one of those things for $800.
Well, this is a prevailing wage quote.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to tell you that the difference between me for nothing and the $5 million you're charging per prevailing wage there is a little bit high. We're going to bid this anyway if we decide to do things, right?
Yeah, this is high.
Well, but if it's prevailing
prevailing
wage,
wage.
if we can do it ourselves.
We don't have to pay prevailing wage.
The problem I see is you have smokers going out, and they always leave that back door open.
They won't be able to anymore.
Well, you say they won't be able to. How are we going to cure that?
I'm here a lot, and it's a culture change. And, it's.
I mean, we could,
People will have to learn to bring their keys with them and let themselves back in.
or they could stop smoking.
Now we're getting too far.
I mean, there are a lot of I was in a town, I think a town hall in Fishkill. There's no smoking anywhere on the property.
So are we ready to motion to go into executive session?
I think so. With this Safeco thing, are you guys on board? You want to bid it out?
Yeah, why not bid it out?
I think it's a great idea, though, to put all those protections in place.
We need to,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, I also want to applaud the clerk's office for putting in the Dutch door. It's done a lot to keep people from going in there. After you go through this training and you hear what happens around the state and around the country, it's with little things we can do, we can limit possible.
Where'd the Dutch door come from? Was it always there?
Bobby made it.
Good for him.
There's birth certificates, death certificates, marriage
Sure.
applications, there's confidential information, and, it's a very tight workspace with people coughing over
Right.
the clerk's
No, I think it's a
sandwiches, so it gives a little separation.
The 6,900, I have a question. Is that just for the release of the back door?
Yes. Yes. All right, I'd like to, if there's no further discussion, or if the 4 remaining hardcore audience members don't have any further business, I'd like to ask for a motion to go into executive session for matters leading to employment of a specific person and some collective negotiations pursuant to Civil Service Law 14 and some labor issues and a contract negotiation.
Thank you for your
issue.
interest.
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
We will not be taking any action, so thank you all very much. We'll see you at our next meeting.